I was born in Boise, Idaho, but I grew up in Utah. I grew up in Bountiful, actually, so I'm pretty local. I went to Viewmont High School. I graduated there, and I spent a year at Utah State University, and then 4 years at BYU. For all of my working career, I worked as an executive assistant. I'm mostly supporting C-level executives and helping them be successful, which is an interesting way to spend your life, pouring all of your energy into somebody else's success. But anyway, they were very nice people who treated me with kindness and respect. I made a good living, so it was good. I retired in 2015 and started working on my art. No, actually, I started making art quilts in the 1990s. So I've been doing it for a long time, but there was a span of time there when I was working, supporting my family, taking care of my elderly father, when I just didn't have anything left at the end of the day to give to art. So I stopped making art. So I have a big gap. I did really well, up until around 2004, 2005. And then I just couldn't do it all. Something had to drop out, and it was my art that dropped out. So when I retired, I was really thrilled to be able to get right back to it. Well, actually, my mother was a great seamstress, and she sewed clothes for all of us and for herself. And so I grew up around sewing machine and going to the fabric store and learning to identify fabric by the touch. And she died very young. And so that really kind of set me adrift. But when I discovered quilting, it was a way that I could connect with her, with the fiber, the fabric. And so I did that. And then it wasn't very long after I started quilting that I discovered art quilts. And it just seemed like a natural path for me to go down to pursue that. I have a very modest workspace. I just basically took over the family room of the house, moved in my sewing machines, my fabric, my bits and my bobs, and took it over. So I have two very old sewing machines, nothing fancy. I don't have a long arm. I'm a very analog person. That's the way I work. So I guess I'm kind of an anachronism, a little bit old-fashioned for what people are doing now these days. My process is very, very different. I basically work. I have a kind of a split personality, and I work in two different directions. The one direction is very abstract and very exploratory. I consider myself a kind of an adventurer in fiber art. And I'm always interested in trying new things, but I have really loved just expressing myself through exploring how inks flow on fabric. So I have done a lot of that. It's very abstract. It's very improv, and that is so much fun. And on the other hand, I do a lot of paper on pencil drawing, and I take that when I've refined my drawing to the place where I want it. I take it to a copy center, I have it blown up, I trace it onto whole cloth white cotton, and then I paint it, then I stitch it. So it's quite methodical, and it's almost like working in two different worlds, but those are the main processes that I'm using at the moment. It depends on the piece I'm working on and the size. My space is limited, so size is a limiting factor. I have worked on several pieces at once. Usually I try and focus mostly on one piece at a time, but if I've got a big deadline, yes, I can rotate around to a couple pieces at a time. I usually get one or two pieces done a month, and I don't work large anymore. I used to work much larger when I was younger, but my scale has changed now that I've gotten older, and I tend to work around 30 by 30 or 40 by 40 max for my size. I can do one in a month. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes you just have to cogitate on something and wait for it to be revealed how it is supposed to move forward. Other times the idea just arrives and you're ready to go right to work. So it's variable. I can do something when I'm under the gun. And like I say, around a month. But it's a process. It's not like you just paint it and it's done. For me, I have to think of the idea, then I have to draw it, then I have to refine it, then I have to transfer it to fabric, and then I have to paint it. Then I have to stitch it. That's an extra step that most artists don't have to take. So it's involved. I love the idea of this thing because it's just so easy to work with. I mean, our lives intersect in so many ways with everything. So I have a piece in the show that's political because my life intersected with politics back in the last election, and I'm sure it's going to intersect with politics again in this coming election. So there's a natural intersection there between the tension of an artist and the tension of politics, especially during an election year. And I have a piece in the show I actually have three pieces in the show. One of the pieces is about childhood and where did you go to dream your dreams of your life? And that's an intersecting point too. When you look back at your life and what you have done and where you have been and what you thought you might do, but ended up doing instead, that's a whole intersection process too. So it was a very easy thing to work with for me. Being part of the Utah Surface Design Group has been wonderful to me. I was a member at the very beginning, and now I'm a member again. But I'm also a member of some other national fiber art organizations, but they meet Zoom. They don't meet in person. With this group, we meet in person. We exchange ideas. It's a wonderful group of different kinds of artists. So everybody is bringing something different, their own experience and their own kind of artwork to the meetings and to in-person get-togethers, and you get to talk and touch and feel their work. And it really sparks ideas and excitement in your own work, having that interaction. This is the only place I have that kind of artistic interaction in my life, and I love doing that. So it's a kind of a symbiotic relationship. I'd like to think that I bring something to the group, they all bring something to the group. There's plenty of information and interesting ideas that we all take away. We feed each other, I guess, is what I'd say. But we like each other too, so it's fun to be together. I'm just thrilled to be in the show. I love the Brigham City Museum. I have a little bit of history with the museum through the designer craft group. I've exhibited there before, and it's always a thrill for me to be included in any show at the museum. So I'm just very happy to be there.